Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday. It is 8 o'clock. It is time for Macro Talk, and I am Allan. How's everybody doing? And can you hear me? I think you can because my thing's going, my little lines going across the thing. Yes, that's a good sign. So, yeah, a few things to announce before we get started. We are going to be talking tonight about two things. One, video composition and what that means in practical terms. And I'm going to give you some pointers and give you some ideas, even some suggestions you might want to follow. And then after that, no, before that, actually, I'm going to do a mini DIY thing to show you what is probably the best idea I've had for the macro cage yet. Yeah, it came about by accident, but I'll explain that when we get to it. A couple of announcements. Let me see. I accidentally pressed the wrong button when I was printing a copy of my orchid bee photograph. One of my favorite pictures that I've ever taken. It's that one above my head on the wall there. And I was printing a copy for a friend, and I pressed the wrong button and printed it in monochrome. It has now become my favorite picture in black and white. I think it's better in black and white than it is in color. What do you think? Let me know. Write something in the chatter box thing there, but I love it like that. It's really cool. I missed the green, but I love the silver. So there you go. That wasn't an announcement. That was just a thing. Let me see. You might remember, it was like during the spring last year, or was it the summer? Might have been the summer. I did what has to be one of my worst reviews. It was a review of the Nikon R1C1, and it was based on inadequate testing and time and preparation on my part. My bad. I mean, really, it was, I had a limited window of time in which I could have the lights to use, and I rushed it. And I didn't do a good job. However, not everything I said was wrong by any means, but enough of it was wrong that I'm unhappy with it. And so are some of my viewers. And I have been asked to issue a retraction or an apology for the review. I'm not going to do that until I have reviewed the flashes properly. And then I will compare the two, and if an apology is due, it will be issued, I assure you. But this all came to light yesterday. Well, actually, I'd been asked about it prior to this. But one of my viewers reached out and said, "Still haven't heard you say anything about that." Well, it's because I haven't had I haven't tracked down an R1C1 until yesterday, and Susan is going to send me hers, the entire kit, the whole box, and I'm going to redo that video as the next priority. As soon as it arrives, I am going to do that video, and it will be the most thorough review of the R1C1 that you've ever seen. And if indeed I need to correct anything that I said before, I shall, and if I need to apologize, I will. But let's do the work first and see what we have left. So that's coming up. The same person said, by the way, I'm really eager to see that Leiwa 25mm f2.8 2.5 to 5 times macro review video. Well, go watch it now. Well, after this, it's on YouTube. I put it up this afternoon. Finally got it finished. It was a lot of work, and it took a lot of editing to get it done. And then I had a little bit of problem with the editing at the end, but you don't care about that, do you? It's up now. You can watch it. I think it's good, and it's full of facts, and hopefully it'll be helpful if you're thinking about getting one. The video competition has a number of folks are excited about it, so I'm hoping more will jump on board. I've been in touch with Leiwa. I haven't heard back from them just yet, but trying to figure out a date for our visit with Mr. Lee. Now, one thing that has come up was where to host the videos. I still haven't figured out quite what to do yet, but I think what we're going to do is have you guys submit them to Patrick, who's going to put them on his Dropbox, and then we'll keep them there until after the competition. That will work, and we'll make it seamless for you, so they'll just be... He's probably already done it, knowing Patrick, and he's got the instructions probably over on my app. But there was one thing that you need to do, and that concerns music. If you decide to use music, and using music is absolutely fine, it's a wonderful way to accentuate what you're talking about, especially in a short format video. It can contain a lot of useful information and context for the viewer. So if you want to use video, you must use video that you get from the Epidemic website. Now, the reason for that is every time I have ever played a video clip that anybody has ever sent me for any reason, and I've played even just a bit of it, I get a copyright infringement strike from YouTube. They have zero sense of humor about this. They're deadly serious about it, and I respect that. So what we're going to do, I have a license from Epidemic, which means I can use any music on their site. And you can access their site without an account. You just go on there and you can browse the music and listen to it. So here's the deal. I think you can get a free trial where you just get to download the song, and then in which case go ahead and edit it into your video as you normally would, or as you will from now on. It's very straightforward. But if you can't do that, or they won't let you do that, or you can't get the music, then simply when you send in your video, send it in a week early, because if I'm going to be editing all of these, that's going to take time. So I will put the music in for you. You just need to, with your submission, tell me what song, what artist, where you want the music, and any instructions you want. You want it to swell to a crescendo, or stop here, or start at this time mark, whatever it is you want. Write it down and send it to me with the name of the song. I'll find it, download it, edit it in, and you'll be good to go. And I won't count against you for bad sound editing, because I'll have done it. Makes sense? It would be better if you did it, because that way it could be your creative thing. But just make sure you get the music from Epidemic. And I will check every video to make sure that there is no copyright material in it. But if there is any music in it and it is not from Epidemic, I won't use it. I won't be able to use it. And the reason is, even if you wrote a song and then performed it on your violin and your washboard and sent it to me with your video, I couldn't use it. Even if you wrote me a letter saying I could use it. That's the way the thing works at YouTube. Unless I have a license that's already in the system, they won't like it, and they'll give me a ding. And if you get enough dings, what they do is they lash you, and I do not want to be lashed. This job's hard enough without lashing. So there you go. That's the deal. If you have any questions about it, ask me over at the Walls app. And we'll take it from there. That was all I had on the video competition. Some people have already done their videos. Amazing. Isn't that good? And the last thing, I announced this on Thursday, but I'm going to mention it here very briefly. I am putting together a complete video rig for my camera. That is so that partly I can show you how to do it, and partly so that I've got the bits I need to be able to shoot the video that I need to for the rest of this month's videos. It's very hard without a monitor, and I don't have one, and without a way to hold the monitor, you get the idea. You need to build the thing out. So I'm adding a few pieces to my camera, and when they come in, I'll show you what I got and how to put them together and how to use them. Okay? Any questions or comments or requests before we get started, I wonder? Let me see if I'm looking at the right thing. Joseph's here. Greetings, Joseph. Only 45%, 14 out of 31 viewers have given a thumbs up. That means the other half just don't like me. They were looking for the cooking show. Anyway, let me see. Sound is good. Video is good. All is cool. All right, good. No questions? Then let me begin with a little bit of DIY. What do you think? What do you think? Any thumbs up on that? I think it's fantastic. I do need to stick it back up though, or it'll get soiled. All right, so for the longest time, when I build a camera rig for myself, what I do is I have my specimen area in front of the camera area, and everything is set up so that it's convenient and in the right place. But the lighting, what I used to do and have done until very recently, was I would drill holes in my work surface, and then I would put sizing, what do you call them, bushings, the plumber's bushings that screw in there, and then I'd have these metal rods that I'd cut threads in and screw the rods in, and they'd be like pylons, and I could attach things to them. To attach them, you needed bendy arms, and bendy arms needed super clamps. And the super clamps often were a bit too big for the poles, so I had to wrap the poles in shrink wrap or some other material to make the grabbers hold on. It was okay, and I've done this for donkey's years without any problem at all, except the occasional bit of slippage. But as I was helping Susan with her rig, I had an idea that I've used on other people's rigs before, but never on my own, because it cost a bit of money. And that was to use aluminum extrusion. And then I built a replacement lighting system for Susan and sent it to her. And as I was mailing it, I thought, oh no, there's a better way to do that. And what I want to show you is what I think the best way to mount your lights for macro photography. Why do we even need to do this? Why do we even need to think about anything special to mount lights? Well, I get chill bumps when I see people doing macro with their flashes on the deck, either in those little stands that they come with, the little plastic things, but just sitting on the ground. The reason that bothers me is just one nudge, just an elbow. You might not even know you did it, and the light moves, the picture changes, the outline of the subject changes, your whole stack is ruined. I've just never liked that. I've always thought that was a weak link. So I've always tried to get mine up off the ground and at a height with a flexibility that allows me to position them anywhere on a half dome, a half globe that ends at the subject. Imagine a football, around a soccer ball, cut it in half, put the subject at the middle of the cut half, and the bulby bit coming back towards you, the round bit. I need to be able to put a light anywhere on that round bit. Okay, that's the idea. And the more lights you have, the more crucial it is that you have a way of getting the lights in all those positions. So this is what I came up with. It's not rocket science. In fact, it's not any kind of science. It's just very, very basic, but it works very, very well. And it only took me a few minutes to do it. Let me switch cameras and show you what I mean. We'll see if the phone's working. Yeah, it is. Okay, so the phone, you can see my piece of wood, and all that you're going to need is a couple of pieces of extrusion. Now, you can do this with one piece. And you can do it. I usually use these 300 millimeter pieces, but they're a bit long for this, so I've started cutting them in half. But I'll explain that in just a minute. You need a baseboard, but this is already where your macro rig is, so you don't need another piece of wood unless your piece of wood is very thin, in which case you need a thicker piece anyway. Then you need a piece of metal. Now, it can be another piece of extrusion, but this stuff costs money. The metal that I have doesn't cost anything. Well, it probably did when I bought it, but I've had it for forever. I've got one piece of aluminum that just is off a rod that I have, cost a few bucks a few years ago. It costs a few $100s now, I'm sure. And this is just a piece of an old something or other, a stand for something that I cut up with a hacksaw to make pieces of metal. The reason I like this is it's hollow, and you'll see why. You'll see why. The idea is this. We're going to take a quarter 20 screw. That's the universal screw of photography. Everything in photography uses a quarter 20 screw. It's what that camera is awfully bright, isn't it? Weird that. Let me see if the other phone is, the other camera's any better. Much better. Okay, so we'll take a quarter 20 screw, that short or shorter, and the reason I use this is because the holes on either end of a piece of extrusion, there we go, that's not in focus, is it? Yeah, the holes on either end of the extrusion are perfect to tap to a quarter inch. So I tap these both ends to a quarter inch, then take my piece of metal, whether it's the hollow one or the solid one, and I drill 3 holes. 2 of them are just small holes, like I don't know, a little bit less than a quarter of an inch, and they have the countersinks sunk into them. This is just done on a drill press, very quick and easy. You could do it by hand as well. The reason for the recess is just to hide the screw, or to give it somewhere to sit. All right. Now for the aluminum, you just turn it over and drill a bigger hole. This one is one size bigger than a quarter 20. We want our quarter 20 to go straight through it without hitting the side. So it's, what is that? Hang on a sec, let me think about it. 2 8s, 4 16ths. It's 3 16ths? No, it's more. It's something like 7 64ths. I can't remember. It's just a bit bigger than a quarter anyway. And then you countersink that too with a bigger countersink, enough to take the flat head of this screw. Then you take your aluminum. Oh, you need one other thing. One of these little star-like washers. Any washer, a split washer will do, but this is to stop the metal from turning. And then you just take whichever end you want and screw it on like this. I've got a drill there, but it makes a terrible noise. So this will screw on, and because of that washer, it'll actually tighten and click like that into place in line with the edge of the metal, like so. Then it's just a matter of taking a couple of wood screws. These are little short bitty ones. I normally use big long monster things on my rig, but I didn't want to drill this to my desk. And then screw this into the piece of wood, into the baseboard. Now I'm doing this to show you, because I'm actually going to show you what you then do with it, which is the fun part. Oh, there we go. So this would do it exactly the same thing. Instead of countersinking though, I've drilled bigger holes to hide the screws in. So you got the small screws for the small holes for the wood screws on the outside, with a big hole for the screw to hide in, and then the opposite in the middle, where you've got the slightly bigger hole there, and then a whopper hole for that big quarter 20 screw. And it works exactly the same way. You just screw it down. Now you can drill multiple holes and put multiple screws through there so that you can move this to any place you want. If you're using aluminum extrusion for this base, then that's in some ways even better, because then you can just loosen this and slide it up and down the extrusion and put it anywhere you want it, which was my original idea and why I used those poles. But this is much more elegant. I'm going to switch back to the other camera because we've got a slightly bigger field of view here. In fact, let me angulate that upward a little. All right, so here's the cool thing about this. You can buy these nuts. You can't see them, but you can buy them there. They're made to slip into this extrusion, and then you can put a screw in them on the other end. However, they don't make them in this size, the 2020 size, that has a big enough hole for a bendy arm, because this would need to be a 1/4 20. So I don't like using adapters for threads. So what I did was I just came up with a way to make them out of a strip of old aluminum that I had. I just cut them to length and oh, you can't see them. Cut them to length, filed them down, and let me get the other camera on again. Filed them to length, cut them to length, drilled holes in them, filed them down. There they are. And they're not in focus. Let's put them in focus. There you go. Perfect. So these little boogers do fit in here just fine. And the screws fit in those holes just fine. You can't see that, can you? This is terribly difficult having all these cameras. I need a cameraman. There you go. See them in there? That's them in there. But you want to assemble them before you drop them in there. But if you accidentally drop them, you can tip them out on the floor like that. So where this thing becomes fantastic is when you start using it, because here are some of the things you can do. If you've got another piece of extrusion, as I'm sure you bought more than one piece, that's good. They usually sell them in 4s. You can buy these little L brackets that take a set screw. They come with the set screws, like so. And these things, you put the set screw in the hole and then put the bracket in here like this. And just using one of these on either side, you can now put a span of aluminum extrusion right across your subject, in front of the subject, above the camera, which is fantastic. And it's so rigid and stable, though you wouldn't do it in line with the bracket. You couldn't see that, but it would be sideways to the bracket like that. There's the bracket, you see it? And this is going facing towards the middle of it. Okay, so that way you could put a top on it. But if you didn't want to put a top, you could get by with using just one of these. Because let me show you what you do. You take one of these nuts that we made, the little aluminum ones. Take any bendy arm. I've taken the stuff off it so that you can see what I'm doing, and then screw one of those little adapters on, and you only screw it on about a turn, if that. Then simply thread it into the hole on the extrusion like so, and position it where you want it. So let's say you want it there, halfway down. Then all you have to do is turn the bendy arm about half a turn. You could stand on this now. It's not going anywhere. You can undo the bendy arm, put your MF12 on it or whatever you're using, and you're in business. And if you use a taller piece of aluminum, you can put these anywhere you want, up to the ceiling. So you do that. You want another one though. You want another one, so just grab another one with another one of those nuts, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 channels in this thing, plus the 4 in the base, or 3 that are facing up in the base, if you want to use them. So you can even put a bendy arm in the base. So slide another one on the other side maybe. Do the same thing. All you have to do is, this is amazing, tighten it half a turn with the bendy arm tight. Twist it half a turn and you're done. And then position your light like so. See how long this takes? It used to take me hours to set these things up. Okay, so now you've got your other light. Let's say, oh, you want your diffusion. Where could you put your diffusion? Well, your diffusion uses a 1/4 20 as well. Everything uses a 1/4 20. But instead of wasting another one of these valuable little doodads that I made, we'll just screw it into the top, because we also cut a thread in the top hole, like so. So now I can suspend my tunnel of diffusion straight from the clamp. Would you look at that? And I am not kidding when I say you can have this thing bristling with clamps and it will take the weight. I've had so far 8 on it, but that's all I had. And I didn't have stuff to put on the end of all of them, so it'll easily hold that many. Put them in. You can put them in the front. You can put them in the back of the thing if you want. So to lock it, just turn it half a turn. Give it a that's got to be tight though. Lock it half a turn. Relax it. Oh yeah, I put a quick release clamp on this one so that you could see that creates all kinds of other things you could do. Oh, and one thing I didn't say was, once these are on, if you tighten these rings, you know, the plastic or metal rings that come with these, it gives you an added level of security. It just makes them a bit tighter. So that's it. It should have a name, but it's really just a piece of aluminum extrusion. So I think we'll just skip the name. But don't you think that's pretty darn impressive? And this really will hold as much weight as you care to put on it. I'm going to use 2 with the cross beam so that they're spread out a bit. But yeah, that whole thing took me, I don't know, 15 years to eventually think about it. But it only took me 10 minutes to make the first one in the garage. All you need is a drill. It's too bad we don't have a live audience here, because I feel fairly sure that people would be clapping and hooting and yeah, celebrating a Nobel Prize winning moment, or possibly not at all. So there you go, that's all there is to it. And to take them off, of course, you tighten the light thing, you turn it a quarter turn and slide it right off or up. Oh, my ring is hitting the other ring on the other side. There you go. That's all there is to it. Quarter turn and then slide it off. Man, this is impressive stuff. Do they have a Nobel Prize for macro photography inventions? They should. What do you think? Silence. That's what I always get, is just absolute dead silence. I don't know why nobody's invented this. They probably have, haven't they? Probably everybody's got one of these. But yeah, it really feels like it's been a long time coming. But you ought to try it. It doesn't cost hardly anything to do, and it works brilliantly. That's all I had on that. That went rather quickly, didn't it? Let me see if there's any comments. No, everybody's just really annoying. Now, let me see what's annoying about this. Somebody said it's annoying. What's annoying? Bud arrived while I was doing that. Greetings, Bud. He already knew about this, I think. I talked about it. Does everyone see a YouTube banner over the right upper quadrant? Of what? That? Oh, that's me. I did that. Oh dear, I'm sorry. Should I get rid of it? I will get rid of it. I thought it was kind of cool. I put that on there, just experimenting. Oh dear, sorry about that, guys. I didn't realize it was irritating. Was it covering up the important parts I was supposed to be showing? Oh, blimey. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was in camo. I got the camo app so I could use like multiple other cameras or multiple phones without having a conflict. And yeah, one of the things they let you do is put a banner on it. So I put a banner on it. I'll put it down here if I put it anywhere at all. I'll just leave it off. Sorry about that. My bad though. Don't blame anybody else. Yeah, okay. Well, blimey. Banner's gone now. Yeah, it was just, Bud says Alan probably doesn't know, which is true. I didn't, but I did make it, so I should have known. Anyway, not to worry. It does interfere with the view. Sorry about that, chaps. Okay, so did you miss anything important? I don't think it covers up that much of the screen. You saw the general idea, right? Yeah. I'm not going to go through it again. If you want to see, I'll make a drawing in my CAD program and post it if you want to see in detail the size holes and everything. But otherwise, it's pretty much seat of the pants stuff if I can do it. I'll send you a picture. Well, I think I actually took a picture of it. Yeah, I don't know where it is though. I'll post a picture of the whole thing in action, working. Talking about pictures, I wonder if I still have the picture that I made for the that I used in the video that I posted today. It was I'd love to show it to you. It was a good one. We have a couple of minutes before I get yakking about the video. Let me just see if I can find it, and then I'll share it with you. The subject was a weevil, and you know how much I like weevils, right? So this was a beautiful weevil. Oh, file can't be opened because it was moved or deleted. I don't know how I did that. I just thought I was making it a minute ago in this very program. Strange, these computers. Ah, there it is. So let me show it to you. It's a bit dark at this particular juncture, but I'm going to see if I can lighten it up. So let me share that screen with you for just a second. Such a pretty weevil. See it? Isn't he nice? Yeah, I'm trying to enlarge it on the wrong... oh, this is not the finished one. Yeah. This is before I edited it, but it was... it's a pretty bug. That's a piece of wood of no importance, and this is me. So, has anybody been actually giving any mind space to this problem of making a 60-second video, making it interesting? It's a challenge. It really is. It's a different kind of challenge. I know that some people are so focused on their excuse the pun, so focused on their macro photography that they don't have the interest in trying anything else that could present a rabbit hole. But this is a very fruitful, creative tool, and using this challenge will make you a better photographer too, because it's going to force you to look at some things differently than you do normally. The problem, and what I wanted to talk about, is how to make a compelling composition. Now, I'm not using composition in the same sense of the word that I do when I'm talking about a photograph. Composing a photograph, you only have that two-dimensional moment in time to tell the whole story. The owl looking back over his shoulder at the person he's going to maul, for example. You can get a story into 2D. I mean, that's the whole idea of photography. But composition in the video sense is a little bit more involved. It means how can you compose that series of still images to make a three-dimensional representation of reality in a way that tells a compelling story. That's a tall order. You have to be able to see it in your head before you can make it. And it's helpful to be able to put it down on paper before you can start to actually shoot it. So I thought that there are certain things that are difficult about composition, and certain things about the technique of shooting the video which will make your compositional task harder. So I thought I'd start out by giving you the basic rules. Some of these you'll have heard before from me, Others will be novel, but this is what to do in order to maximize the chances of you're coming up with a good composition. And then we'll talk about the composition itself. Shoot from a stable base. By the end of January, you will be sick of hearing me talk about stable bases, but whether that's a nice heavy tripod like my adapted video tripod. I put that head, by the way, that fluid head, on my good tripod legs, and it works really well. So that's what I'm using over there. You can't see it because that's where the camera is. I could point you at it, I suppose. Oh dear. Yeah, there it is. On my good tripod, the Bogan head. Anyway, gosh, you know what? I shouldn't ever do that, because that's when wires get unplugged in the middle of a video, and yeah, everything goes dead. So we definitely don't want to do that. So let me shut that guy down. All right. Oh, here's a question from Tejas Vishay. Is that even remotely close? Is that the right language I got? Anyway, should I buy a manual Laowa 2X macro or autofocus Nikon F-mount 1:1 macro? Whew. Oh, that is a loaded question, isn't it? It's a great question. I am new to 2:1 macro. I did not grow up with it. I grew up with 1:1 and less than that being macro. I find the photography a little more difficult at 2:1. The reason, of course, is you have more subject for the same size frame, and sometimes finding the subject and composing the shot can be difficult, especially if you've been using a regular magnification lens for many years. I'm quickly acclimatizing to the 2:1. It's not that big a deal. I don't think there's any, with our modern sensors, there's probably no compelling reason you have to be 2:1. You can crop your 1:1 probably 10 times over and not use up the resolution you have. So yeah, it's not that important. I find composition easier at 1:1. I'm sure that there are others who would disagree, but between I don't know what it would depend on which Nikon 1:1 you're talking about. If you were trying to choose between the MC105 1:1, that's the newest flagship Nikon macro lens, and the Laowa, I would probably say get the autofocus Nikon, because it will give you more freedom to do other things, and it's a fully automatic bells and whistles lens with great stabilization. The Laowa lens is a manual lens. If you're more interested in that, you're good to go. It's a beautiful lens. It's apochromatic. The Nikon lens is not, so it's fully corrected. Of course, at the kind of normal distances you're working at, that correction isn't very important. You won't see nearly as much aberration as you will in the lab with the higher magnification. But anyway, I think that you can't go wrong with either. They are basically all the lenses I own are either Nikons or Laowas. So you will save a little bit of money. The Laowa lenses are they're probably half the price, and that half the price is because you're not getting autofocus. You're not getting a connection to the camera. You're not getting EXIF data from the lens. You're not getting a lens profile. All of those things you have to think about. I am one of those people that actually does use autofocus in my macro, and I use it merely to acquire the subject. I use back button focus. Now, this is when I was using a DSLR. I don't use it as much with a mirrorless, but I'll use back button focus to get me close to the subject, and then I will grab the lens, and that turns the autofocus off, and I focus by hand from that point on. But I use it to save having to make big corrections on the manual focus ring. And that's something you can only do with autofocus. Another thing that you can only do with autofocus is in-camera stacking. If you have any desire to do in-camera focus bracketing, you must get a lens with autofocus. So that's another reason that you would steer away from the Leioa in favor of something with auto. Okay, that's a long answer, but it was a loaded question. All right, so if you don't have a stable mount for your camera, you're not going to shoot stable footage. And if your camera is shaking, then it doesn't matter what story you're trying to tell, nobody's going to want to watch it. Seriously, select the right lens, and by that I mean use a macro lens or a macro cine lens. I brought the macro cine lens up here and I set it down on the table over there so it wouldn't get cluttered on my desk. But anyway, that's what I'm using for my video now. It is made and optimized for video. Why do you pay twice as much for a lens that is basically a 100 millimeter macro lens like their APO 2X macro lens? Why does it cost twice as much when it becomes a cine lens? Partly because it has the de-clicked aperture ring, partly because it has a long throw focus and all the necessary gears and what have you to attach follow focus devices to it. But probably most importantly, it is set up so that it doesn't focus breathe. Focus breathing is a phenomenon that is seen in internally focusing lenses, which is pretty much all macro lenses now. That's where the lens itself does not change length when you focus. And because of that, it has to compensate in some way. And the way it does it is by subtly shifting the magnification as you change focus. It means that as you focus, the subject moves in and out. Not at the same time. I mean, it moves out when you focus far and in when you focus near, or the other way around. But that's focus breathing. And cine lenses are designed not to do that. And having them not do that takes a lot of clever design and engineering. So that's what I mean by the right lens. It will be problematic to use a regular macro lens to shoot video because as you change focus, as your subject comes towards you, it'll breathe and it'll change size, and it's hard to correct that in a live action scene. Pay attention to your composition. That means the same rules of composition that go into making a still photograph. Rule of thirds, leading lines, all the things that I talk about, negative space. Use all of that to give you a pleasing still photograph from which your video will be made. Remember, it's just a series of still videos, of still photographs. A very good idea is to change your perspective on the subject, especially in macro, where there is a huge benefit to getting down on the perceived level of your subject. If we're all used to seeing spiders down there, a good way away from us where our boot is, and that's the typical way you'd see a spider from above. What you can do in composing your shot in macro is get right down there and look at the spider eye to eye. It changes everything. It suddenly becomes a lot more threatening, and you can build tension that way. So control the depth of field, and that is hard to do. The depth of field is going to be shallow, period. when you get down to these high magnifications, especially at 2:1. You often aren't going to have the luxury of being able to use the depth of field very creatively. Take the Laowa lens that I was just evaluating. That lens has an F number at which it is very, very sharp, aberration free, with an acceptable amount of diffraction. It's at f4. You go any tighter than that and diffraction becomes problematic. You go any more open than that and you start to see chromatic aberrations, pincushion distortion, and all other kinds of minor things that aren't visible at f4. So picking the right aperture sometimes is not much of a choice. You really have to go with the one that gives you the best picture. If you know your lens so that you know what range of apertures you can use, and when you want to, for effect, use a very narrow, very shallow depth of field, you can swing to that point and no further, so that you don't bring in the aberrations and other issues. But yeah, knowing where your depth of field is, it's a tool that you can use to emphasize things. Detail. When you go to f2.8, you're only going to be focusing the attention of the viewer on what is in focus at that point, which will probably be an earlobe or an eye if you're photographing a human being. So that's a good way to do. If you're trying to show context, then again, deep depth of field would do that, give a more global look at the surroundings. The problem is, though, many macro lenses don't do that. They don't give you any kind of meaningful background because they only focus right there in front of the camera. So the changing depth of field is probably less important than it is in big video. Lighting is, of course, as always, the most important part of macro video, just like it is the most important part of macro photography. You've got to diffuse it, you've got to spread it out, you've got to use good quality light, and using reflectors and flags to modify it, all the usual things. And we talked about that ad nauseum the other day on Thursday, I think, and it was good. Movement has to be slow and deliberate and steady. It has to go from point A to point B, whether you're moving the whole camera or just panning or tilting the camera. The movement has to be accelerating into it, decelerating out of it, and smooth. That's why you need a tripod and a tripod head of some kind, preferably a fluid head, so that you can do that. If you're moving a camera across the floor, you need something with wheels. Borrow a shopping cart from your local Walmart. I'll deny saying that, though. I can't. It's on video. Okay, well, don't do that. But have something that you can roll around, because unless you have a steady cam thing, you just moving will make it wobble. So do that. I talked about a different perspective when I was talking about composition, but definitely getting an unusual perspective is always going to get you points. One thing that I used to do, I can't do it anymore because I smashed the table when I moved, or I broke it. I used to have a coffee table with a glass top on it, and I would get underneath there on my back and shoot up through the glass table at spiders. People thought that was a little odd when they caught me doing it, but these things happen. But that's an unusual perspective. You don't expect to see a spider walking above you, so that's good, especially a big spider. Focus on detail. That's the whole key. Remember the golden rule of macro is the pictures we take to be successful need to show the viewer something they can't see with their regular eyes. Because if you can see it, then it's no point photographing it. We're trying to show the world things they can't see. No different in the video. So use those details. If it's the eyes that look stunning, use the eyes to emphasize your point. And probably the most important thing is tell the story that you want to tell through the sequence of images that you show. And that's what we're going to focus on here for the last little bit. I'm not moving fast enough, but I'm going to give you some concrete ideas. Experiment and try other things and be patient. Video, unlike a still, you can spend half an hour setting up a still and take a photograph and just have the one photograph, but you can spend a whole day setting up a 60-second scene and never get the thing finished. But experiment and try different things. At least you don't have to be linear when you're doing this. And I'll get into that in a couple of these examples. But here are some typical, some of these are really pretty tropish, but they're examples of things that you could fit into a 60-second video that would be compelling and that I would want to watch. You know, I looked at a less than a 60-second video yesterday that Thomas Shahan sent me of a tardigrade. Just doing tardigrade. It was having a poo, actually, I think was what it was doing. And it was absolutely breathtaking. To shoot a tardigrade is difficult anyway, but he got it framed beautifully and lovely shot. And that told a story. It told just about everything about that little tardigrade because you can see through it. So here are some examples of things that you could fit into 60 seconds or less. The life cycle of a butterfly or the life cycle of a fly. There was a time just a few weeks ago when I was, that was back in my maggot raising days. I went through a period where I raised maggots just for one batch and I lost interest in it. But I had these soldier fly maggots. And there was a period of time when I had maggots crawling around still. Didn't have any eggs, but I could have found one of them. I had late instar maggots. Then I had pupated bugs that were stuck to the side of the thing in their pupa. And then I had them hatch and flying around in the room all at the same time. So I'd have some of each. So I could have gone out there and shot the life cycle of the black soldier fly right there and then. The thing is, you don't have to shoot the same person. It doesn't have to be the egg that you shot. Then you have to follow him all the way through high school and everything and shoot him as a fly. Not necessary. You can pretend, and it's poetic license. You can use individuals that are different to tell the life story. So you can use it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You don't have to. You know, if you're doing it for National Geographic, they'd probably want you to use the same one. But no, we can do it different here. So you can catch little bits of that. You can't. You aren't always going to be able to catch the thing hatching, and I know that takes more time. That is a bit of a commitment. A lot of these composition things take time because you're documenting something historical, like the seasonal changes in a flower, or simply the death of a flower. You take a flower and cut it off and stick it in a vase, and then take a picture of it every half hour until it's all gone. That would make an interesting video. Not very interesting, but yeah, it would be fairly interesting. And you could show the seeds coming scattering out and everything at the end of the process. Ants building a nest. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if you could actually be down in there with them like Chris and his buddies did in Green Planet, but you're on your own. I'm not going down there with you. I'm not going into an ant's nest. But maybe you could get a handful of ants and give them some mud and throw them in a jar and ask them to build a nest, and they'd do it. So there's all kinds of ways you can do it. Pollination is a great story. It's kind of the story of life on this planet. Without it, we wouldn't be here. So you could shoot sequences of various different creatures pollinating. You could get bees and wasps and flies and mosquitoes even, all of which pollinate. They're all busy pollinators, and you could cut them all together into a sequence, and it would be very interesting. I'd enjoy watching that. The regular insect activities. Pick an insect, it doesn't matter what it is, and follow it around. Don't pick one that flies. That would be difficult to follow around, but pick a crawly one, and just see what it does when it goes to eat. Give it some food. That's what I do with jumping spiders, the ones that live in my house. I don't feed them exactly. I mean, just when I want to photograph them, I'll give them something to eat, like a fly, and they will come to eat the fly. They surely will. They're not afraid of me. They do want the fly. Water droplets. Now, the water droplets I'm talking about are the muddy water at the bottom of the pond. If you can get a good selection of fauna from the pond water, you will see so many great stories, and you can just follow something around. You can't follow a lot of the things that move really fast, but planaria you can follow around while they go eat things, or hydra, they don't go anywhere. They just sit on their twig, but they eat the things that come by, so you could shoot that. Shooting eating is always good. It always works, because they'll every now and again. I shot an ambush bug last year, catching and eating a wasp, and it was nauseating, but it was a popular little video clip. Let me see. The probably one of the prototypical ones we talked about last year was grow mushrooms. They make mushrooms that you can buy a log that all you have to do is wet it and throw it in the garden, and it will grow mushrooms out of it. Well, don't throw it out there, just keep it in the house and film it, or take pictures of it every hour, and they grow fast, and you'll get a good time lapse. And yes, time lapse is acceptable for the competition too, if you've always wanted to give it a try. So is stop motion. Anything is acceptable. Do whatever you want, so long as it's a video. So any of those would be good ideas, and anything else that you can think of. And I as I was telling Robert before the weekend, it doesn't have to be a video about nature or animals or even plants. It can just be a video about small stuff, or not even very tiny stuff, just smallish stuff. I just want you to get comfortable doing it and giving it a try. I've only got 6 minutes left, and I was just getting into my favorite. Well, I'll run through them real quick. I'll give 30 seconds a piece. Do a time lapse of flowers that are blooming. This is much more interesting, I think, than the ones that are dying. But if you get some fast growing spring type plant and put it in a flower pot and give it water, if I do that, it'll die, but if you do it, it'll grow. And then you can just focus on a single blossom, and you can capture the thing opening up, and it always looks good, always compelling. But it's a bit of work, because you have to move the camera to keep up with the flower, unless you build a robot like Chris does. The dance of bees pollinating. That is so fascinating to watch the interaction of bees. I don't know if you can get into a beehive. I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. It's very tight quarters, and it's full of bees is the other thing. Yeah. So watching bees do their dance, where they're telling other bees where to go to find the nectar, that would be fun, but you need special equipment. So you could just instead watch them pollinate and tell that story. Ants carrying food, or if you were to disrupt their nest by accident, you could film them evacuating their babies, baby ants. They come in tubes, like, they look like hamster droppings, but they have an ant in them. Yeah, and if you upset the nest, they'll grab them and run off with them to put them somewhere safe. So that would be fun to watch, interesting. Water droplets cascading off leaves, either in the rain or after the rain, perfect. Snow falling onto leaves, that would be pretty. Yeah, a spider spinning a web. Have you ever seen that? Amazing. They do it around here all the time because we've got these big orb weavers, and they each have different mechanisms for doing it, but they're all fun to watch. So there's another time lapse, or you could do it in real time and just speed it up. If you're lucky enough to ever have a chrysalis, like my daughter did last week, of a moth or a butterfly, film it coming out of the chrysalis. But my daughter put it in the chicken house because it was warm there, and the chickens ate it. So that would have been a good video, though, wouldn't it? I never thought of that. Moss, lichen especially. You can do moving shots, the cruising over a lichen branch and see 50 different species in a 10-inch section of a twig. So there's another thing you could think of, some kind of a Star Wars type flying over the moss. You might get lucky and see one of Thomas's tardigrades. An insect molting, losing its exoskeleton. I have only ever seen that once. They're hard to catch doing that. You'd sit around forever waiting for them, but if you get lucky, you could do that. And seeds germinating. I got that idea from Chris's work again. He's got some really incredible live action stuff of seeds germinating, sprouting, becoming whole corn plants right in front of your very eyes. I don't expect you to do that, but you see, any one of those could be done in just a few seconds, and you have the luxury of a minute or so. So the idea would be to take bits of footage that tell the story of a growing plant, or a saving the baby ant doing its thing, and put it together into a narrative with little clips showing the you can do it any way you want, but if it forms a cohesive, thoughtful piece, it's more likely to win because it'll be more fun to watch. How about that? We got everything covered. It's 9 o'clock, and let me see if there's any complaints. Small fish spawning. Is that some? Oh, that's an idea. That's a brilliant idea. Amy, you should. I was going to say somebody should tell that to Amy, but it was Amy told me. Amy does fish, so there you go. Small fish. Would it be okay to upload the video to YouTube, pick music there, download that, and submit? What a clever idea. Yes, you may upload it to YouTube privately on your account as a private video, and put me as the person you share it with. Only me until after the thing's over, and then you can do whatever you want with it. That way you will already have passed the checks. The thing is, when it goes into my video, it becomes my problem. Let me think about it. There might be an issue there. Just because you can put music in a video and play it on your channel does not mean I can, even if you have a license for it. I need the license if I play it. That's the problem. I don't think there's any way around it, because they want to see my license, not yours. Let me think, though. Okay. What about the diffusion setup on this setup? Separate covers per light. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I took them off so you could see, but each light has its own dome of mylar. And then over the subject, I usually have a tunnel of Mylar. So there are 2 or 3 layers. And this is easy to do. And because you've got the hole in the top, this hole, you can put another clamp, you can put a bendy arm, you can put anything you want. I use these flexible arms to just hang my tunnel like that, right on the specimen. Beautiful, so elegant. And if I used a full length rod and this was too high, I just put it in the side with one of my clamps like that. This is so much fun. I've been having this thing bristling with devices while I've been making it. It's so cool and it's so easy. And why did I not think of this years ago? Look at that. Just one twist and my bendy arm's attached to the side like that. I'm serious. If Alfred Nobel could, well, he didn't get the prize. He gave it, didn't he? But for making gunpowder and blowing things up, this should be at least that good, I would think. All right, guys, I gotta go. I've got stuff to do tonight, but at least I got that video out. A round of applause for me. Thank you, thank you. Would it be okay to, no, already answered that one. YouTube has free music. Yes, they do. And the music that I want you to use at Epidemic is free too. I mean, I do not want anybody to subscribe to Epidemic to get the music. All you've got to do is tell me what it is and I'll use it and put it on your video. See what I'm saying? It's there's an app where you can, I'm not going to get into it now. There is a great app for making music, and I'll talk about it another time when we've got time. But yeah, there are ways to get royalty-free music as long as I am absolutely convinced that it's going to be legit. Otherwise, I'm the one that gets dinged. So there you go. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I really do appreciate you supporting me. 47 people. Let's see some thumbs up if you don't mind. If you liked it. If you didn't like it, don't bother. But I'll be back on Thursday. Thursday, I'm going to give you guys a very basic introduction to one of my favorite computer programs, Premiere Pro, my editing program. And I will show you enough stuff to get you in trouble. With your editing. I'll show you how to edit a 60-second clip. I may, if the rain stops, I may even make one and actually edit a video for you. So that'll be fun. And if that is not enough, if you need more help after that, like I said, I'd be happy to do a weekend Zoom call with you. I mean, with the group of you. Okay, I've got to go. Things need to be done around here, and I will see you on Thursday. No Zoom this weekend, and videos coming out include the R1C1 review, yay, the redo, and also the 100mm T2.9 macro lens. The video cine is going to be coming out when I make it. Okay, guys, have a good evening. Good rest of the week. Stay safe, and I will see you on Thursday, if not before. Did anybody like the Silver Bee? Nobody even mentioned it, did they? Darn. I thought it was the thing. I thought I could get that in a gallery, maybe. Maybe sell it for $1 million and just quit. Okay, guys, I'll see you on Thursday. Take care, stay safe, and be well.